Today, I'm going to give you a rundown of the countries with the most powerful armies in the world. Okay, let's start with the US. It's recognized as a military superpower. The US started to rise to prominence during World Wars I and II. At first, it was a neutral party selling weapons to both sides. But then they realized if the fascists won, it wouldn't be good for them. So the US tilted towards the Allied powers. And just like that, the Austrian artist bit the dust. Thanks to the huge profits from that period, the US has continuously strengthened its power. It always leads the arms races. Because of this, American soldiers go into battle with incredible confidence. Then came the Cold War. The US and Russia were scrutinizing each other's every move. It was like, whatever you have, I have to have it too. From spaceships and bombs to missiles, the US made it all. And actually, the two countries are still like that today. Around the mid-20th century, the US and Russia had a space race. Both sides burned through a ton of money to get people and equipment into space. Meanwhile, India just needed a single motorcycle to get the job done. The US defense budget is around $900 billion a year, with all sorts of advanced toys. Stealth aircraft, aircraft carriers, tanks, submarines, and especially various types of nuclear missiles. US presidents always have a nuclear briefcase that follows them around. They can press the button from anywhere. In reality, there isn't actually a red button in that briefcase, but its function is pretty much the same. Because besides attacking other countries, the US also has plans ready in case another country wants to attack them. There's a force called Delta Force, said to be the most elite and secretive unit in the US Army. There isn't much information about this team, because it's secret. From what I've researched, there are 9 countries in the world with nuclear weapons, including the US, China, Russia, the UK, France, India, Israel, Pakistan, and North Korea. But only 5 of those countries are legally allowed to have nuclear weapons. Here's a fact: during almost every presidential term, the US sends troops to invade another country for various reasons. According to the US, it's to maintain global order. But everyone knows it's because America likes oil. Like that Secretary of State who held up a vial of salt before the United Nations as a reason to invade Iraq. But after they invaded, they found nothing. The US has military cooperation agreements with many countries around the world. It has military bases everywhere, even though in many places the local people don't like it. But oh well, let's keep things peaceful, because now in the US, Native Americans are just a minority. Russia, also known as the Russian Bear. The Russian army has a tradition of being the top dog since the Tsarist era. After the October Revolution, it became the superpower, the Soviet Union, until the USSR collapsed and became present-day Russia after quite a few countries broke away. Even so, Russia inherited the already strong military foundation from the Soviet Union and has maintained its position to take jabs at the US. Leading Russia for many years has been Putin, a former intelligence officer with a mysterious background. Russia's announced annual defense budget is over $100 billion. Mr. Putin has an incredible amount of toys, all sorts of famous tanks, submarines, and fighter jets, especially its nuclear arsenal. In international relations, Russia still maintains good ties with former Soviet countries like Belarus and Kazakhstan, and it's still close friends with the buddies from the Soviet era, but it lost its connection with this guy. Russia is very famous for selling weapons. The prices are reasonable and they're durable, like the AK rifles that are still used today, with many improvements, of course. China, the country with over 1 billion people. Its annual defense budget is also over $200 billion, twice that of Russia. China's specialty is made in China. Whatever the world has, we have it too, including nukes. Domestic Chinese products are very high quality, so the weapons these Chinese guys make themselves are pretty top-notch. They look quite impressive, though I don't know how they perform. If any of you guys have tried them, leave a comment. China has some traditional friends like Russia and Pakistan, and they often exchange weapons. China, along with Russia and the US, are considered the 3 most powerful countries in the world, always competing with each other. This is also one of the factors that maintains world peace, because if 2 of these 3 big shots decide to do something to each other, the remaining one will step in to intervene, or not. Because I find that casting a veto at the United Nations is the most useless thing. No matter how the vote turns out, these 3 will still do whatever they want. Actually, many other countries like it too, but since they don't have a border, there they just ask to set up military bases, like the US has in the Philippines. China is always promoting its 9-dash line. India, another populous country with diverse street food. The only issue is that it looks a bit unappetizing. India used to be a British colony, then it tagged along with the Brits, crossing many oceans to fight everywhere. After gaining independence, India invested heavily in defense to maintain its position in the region. They frequently get into verbal sparring matches with neighbors like China and Pakistan. India has the second largest active military force in the world, over 1.4 million, second only to China. It's a gathering of superstars who can even dodge bullets. India's annual defense budget is $70 billion. India mostly doesn't produce its own weapons, but imports them from many sources. Recently, they have started some domestic production, but it's not significant. India also has nuclear bombs, even though it's not permitted by the United Nations. North Korea is the same, but the difference is India is on good terms with the US, while North Korea isn't, so it has to pay the price. The Indians also conduct a lot of naval military exercises. I think India has great movies, but their military isn't anything special, though I'm sure it's still strong. South Korea. South Korea is still technically in a state of war with North Korea, so military service is mandatory there. Everyone has to go, whether you're a K-pop idol or the child of a wealthy chaebol. If you try to evade it, you go to jail. And if you're a celebrity, you get the added bonus of being blacklisted. South Korea is located on the Korean Peninsula. The Korean Peninsula was the very first region to kick off the tradition of American presidents starting a war in a new country each term. The Korean War divided this area into North and South. After the war, South Korea was protected by the US and built a relatively strong defense foundation, with pretty high-tech military equipment, but it's still dependent on the US. Every year, South Korea has to give the US a large sum of money, basically a protection fee. If a war or any other problem breaks out, the US would directly command the South Korean army in combat. Although South Korea has tried to reclaim this right many times these days, Daddy America won't allow it. South Korea is home to many major technology corporations, so they are also able to manufacture a lot of advanced weapons themselves. Currently, South Korea also exports weapons to quite a few places. In terms of international relations, besides the constant tension with North Korea, South Korea has a rather complicated relationship with Japan. This is mainly due to historical issues, but both are important partners of the United States. When you talk about South Korea, you have to mention North Korea, the most mysterious country in the world. According to online rumors, South Korea and North Korea were originally one country, but they were split into two regions with two different regimes. First off, the Korean people have had a military tradition since ancient times. They had periods of being quite strong and also periods of being occupied by Japan and China. After World War II, the Korean peninsula was divided, with North Korea backed by the Soviet Union and China. At one point, they had conquered almost all of the South's territory, but then the US entered the war, and the two sides just kept fighting like that for many years, until they signed an armistice agreement that remains in effect today. Because it's a country that opposes the US, no one is allowed to associate with them. The current leader of North Korea is Kim Jong-un, who has a passion for pencils. Every now and then, he takes a few out and lobs them into the sea for fun, which spooks both South Korea and the US. Kim Jong-un's father and grandfather also led North Korea. Being in a state of war and under sanctions, Kim Jong-un has poured a lot of resources into national defense. According to the information I found, the North Korean army has over 1 million active soldiers, double that of South Korea. And North Korea's defense budget is a mystery. We just know that they have a lot of nuclear weapons. And importantly, everyone knows that North Korea is reckless. That's why the US doesn't dare to attack them directly like they do with other countries suspected of having nuclear weapons, because everyone believes North Korea actually has them. They just don't know how many. Japan is famous for its undying samurai spirit. which is carried on today by the weeb generation. During World War II, Japan was on the Axis side, so after losing the war, they were forbidden from maintaining a military force. But seeing how formidable Kim Jong-un's grandfather was back then, the US encouraged Japan to build up a self-defense force, even though their number of soldiers is only around 200,000. But Japan's defense budget is always in the world's top 6. They produce many of their own weapons. In terms of international relations, Japan is close with the US, and the US has many troops stationed in Japan, but they're not so friendly with their neighbors. So Japan maintains military cooperation with many countries like the UK and India to maintain regional stability. Speaking of Japan, we definitely have to talk about Germany, the big brother of fascism. After World War II, like Japan, Germany was also prohibited from aggressive rearmament. Today, they build their military with the main purpose of defense and contributing to European security. Back in the day, European countries were afraid the powerful Soviet Union would attack them, so they gathered together to form an alliance called NATO. After that, it expanded to include allies like the US. The initial purpose was to ensure regional security, but as they admitted more countries, with some being rather aggressive and liking to stir up trouble, NATO often has quite a headache. That's why the country of that comedian president has been asking to join for so long, but they're still just stuck at important partner status. Germany doesn't maintain a very large force of soldiers. Instead, they focus on investing in equipment. German weapons are very durable and effective, so they export quite a bit. Basically, Germany's pretty calm now, but if anyone messes with them, Italy, the last of the 3 fascist brothers who ran wild back in the day. In the old days, Italy had the mighty Roman Empire undefeated across all of Europe. Later on, after losing World War II, Italy had to rebuild its military. They now focus only on national and regional defense. Italy doesn't have a large number of soldiers, only about 160,000 active troops, and they don't have a large defense budget either. It's only about 30 billion. They focus on weapons from other European countries as well as domestically made ones. Many countries also like to buy various types of warships, aircraft, and air defense systems from Italy. But Italy's style now is just to chill. Just ensuring national and regional security is enough for them. Now, if India is the pinnacle of diverse cuisine, well, British cuisine is the pinnacle of minimalism because there's really nothing to it. They don't have food, but in the past, Great Britain had a lot of land. At its peak, the British Empire was called the empire on which the sun never sets. It had colonies everywhere, from India and Australia to Africa. In World War I and II, Britain was also a key player carrying the team along with the Soviet Union. Today, Britain still maintains its strength as a member of NATO. Its defense budget is stable at $60 billion a year. The British military is quite modern and streamlined. Its weaponry is pretty similar to other European countries. However, Britain possesses nuclear weapons to deter other nations. The other member in the group of countries that possess nuclear weapons is France. Famous for Napoleon, who went on conquests all over Europe after the World Wars, France focused on developing its own military hardware with a budget also around $60 billion per year. France's defense industry is also very developed. It can produce most of its main weapon systems domestically. France is an important member of NATO and still maintains a military presence in some African countries. France's wealth and strong military are partly due to considerable contributions from Africa, because in the past France exploited this region a great deal. Later, when it granted them independence, France required these countries to use a common currency with it, and every year they have to send a portion of their foreign exchange reserves to the French treasury in Paris, supposedly to repay the cost for the infrastructure France had built in the colonies. Currently, more than 10 countries still have to pay these colonial taxes annually. Many countries, of course, want to break free, but generally speaking, it's pretty difficult. European countries are basically all the same. Let's not talk about Europe anymore. Ukraine is actually still in Europe, but it's an exception in Europe. It's in Europe and wants to join NATO, but no one will let it in. Ukraine was formerly a part of the Soviet Union. After it split off, it inherited a huge arsenal of weapons, including nuclear weapons, but it wasn't allowed to use them, so it gave them up. However, due to a lack of investment at the time, Ukraine's military strength was initially quite pathetic, but with its important strategic position as the gateway between Russia and Europe, Ukraine received heavy investment from the US and NATO. Its defense budget in recent years is projected to reach up to $100 billion a year. Its weapons are mainly imported from NATO. The turning point for Ukraine came when a certain comedian rose to power and started a war with Russia. Because it has the backing of the US and NATO, the two sides have been fighting for almost 3 years. The losses have been immense. Hopefully the war will end soon. Israel, the land of the Jewish people. It was only established in 1948, but the Jewish people have always been known for being very capable. And Israel has built a very powerful military force with many modern weapons. Israel is one of the world's largest arms exporters, especially UAVs, air defense systems, and intelligence technology. That's why Israel's defense budget is very low, only $27 billion. But they develop their own technology and export quite a lot, so they don't need much. Like many countries in the world, Israel doesn't have good relationships with its neighbors and is very close with the US. They regularly share intelligence and cooperate on military matters. Iran's ancestors were the invincible Persian warriors. In the 20th century, Iran received a lot of support from the US. But after the Islamic Revolution, Iran cut ties with the West and started going it alone. Iran's military force is quite large, over 600,000 people. Its defense budget is a mystery, because Iran is also developing a nuclear program. Although it always claims it's for peaceful purposes, nobody believes it. Also, because it goes it alone, Iran's military weapons are mostly self-made, with a lot of missiles, ballistic missiles, and UAVs. And that's when people got to see Iran's military strength. They seem to have an endless supply of missiles. On top of that, Iran is also the descendant of the Persian Empire. They have the art of resurrection. I heard that Iran also lost quite a few important leaders. On Israel's side, they also suffered quite a lot of damage. So now they're even prosecuting the prime minister for the decision to start the war. I'd say the two sides fought quite civilly. It was a quick fight over and done with. They just focused on hitting military facilities. They avoided affecting civilians, so they should tone it down. Vietnam, descendants of the dragon and the fairy, 1,000-year history of building and defending the nation, never once yielding to invaders. The Vietnamese army, despite not having a huge defense budget, is invested in quite reasonably. Vietnam has caught on to the trends in global military affairs, so the focus is on developing technology. The equipment is also modern. Now, it also includes Israel and Europe, so we aren't too dependent on any single market. The standout feature of Vietnam's national defense is its three no's policy: no military alliances, no foreign military bases, and not siding with one country to oppose another. Because of this, Vietnam's position is becoming increasingly solid, standing shoulder to shoulder with the world's great powers. And those are the strongest armies in the world that I've been able to compile. Goodbye and see you again.